Hi, this is Inga with Inga Bailey Brows, and thank you so much for tuning in to my very first brow vlog. Before I start this introduction to my brow vlog, I want to explain why you cannot see my brows in the introduction of my very first brow vlog. I'm going to explain that. So before I do, the theme of this week, I've decided for it to be naturally glamorous brows. So this weekend is Valentine's Day weekend, and a lot of people are going to go out on dates and have a nice time, and you ladies are going to want to glam up. But, you know, when you glam up, a lot of times people feel as though they don't have to touch their brows. Either they don't want to touch them at all, or they touch them way too much, way too much. So a lot of people have an idea that glamorous brows means darker brows, thicker brows, heavier feeling. That's not how you glamorize your brows naturally. Now, disclaimer, if you see this video, and this is my brow that I did the don'ts. This is my do brow. Don't brow, do brow. If you do your brows the way I don't do my brows, don't get offended, okay? Again, I do brows very naturally. The theme of this week is naturally glamorous brows. So there are a few things that I want to explain about how to glamorize your brows naturally. Let me just go ahead and show you what's going on here. So for some people, this may not, like they both look fine, okay? Again, naturally glamorous eyebrows, okay? So I want to show you and talk about the differences really quickly. So this is my do brow, my don't brow. Now, I have given this brow major justice. I blended out so much on this brow. I tried to make it work, and you will see in the video, I tried to make this work. So it could have been way worse than this, and I've seen worse than this. So to create a natural brow, the Inga Bailey Brows way, there are a few things you want to keep in mind, okay? Number one, if you look closely, there is something that you see very naturally in this brow. It's hair, okay? So when you're filling in your brows, you want to make sure that you can still see your hairs when they're done. If you look over here, the filling is so dark, the hairs are kind of, they've dissipated a little bit. All you see is color. Speaking of color, you want to make sure that you're picking a color that is very close to your natural brow hairs. Ladies, let's not all reach for ebony and dark brown. That's not necessary. Very rarely do people's brows actually grow jet black. So you don't need to put jet black in your brows, okay? Reach for a color that looks like your natural brow hairs, okay? This over here, this is ebony. Just a little too dark. This over here is soft brown. Just kind of an FYI. Lastly, when you're naturally filling in your brows, whether it's glamorous or just for a natural filling, you want to make sure that the front of your brow is soft and it's not overly filled, and it blends in softly to the rest of the brow, okay? You don't want this. The reason being is because naturally your brows grow lighter in this area here, naturally. So if you're trying to create a naturally glamorous brow, you want to keep that area consistent and keep it natural. All right, so recap. Make sure you can see your hairs, number one. Make sure your color is not too dark, number two. Number three, make sure that your front of the brow is blended out and it's soft. All right, that's it. Let's get into the tutorial on do's and don'ts of naturally glamorous brows. Okay, so we're going to start off on the brow where I'm going to talk about the don'ts. Starting off with the Anastasia Beverly Hills Dip Brow in Ebony. Way too dark, but I'm going straight from the pot, straight to the brows. And I am just going to outline the bottom of the brow with that dip brow pomade. Oh my God. Yeah, it was a bit much. And I'm going to go on the top of the brow, do the same thing, outline the top of the brow, taking it all the way down to the tail.
So I actually found my inspiration by watching YouTube tutorials and Instagram tutorials, and this is how they were doing the brows. So now I'm going to go in with the ebony brow powder, and I saw people take powder filling in the middle of the two brow pomade lines. That's what I'm doing here. Um, and then trying to blend it out to make it look softer. As you can tell, it wasn't really working. So then I took my spoolie and I decided to blend the front of the brow just to kind of, again, make it look softer. Mm. Then I take my concealer, and I hear a lot of people use this term as carving out the brow. So I begin to carve out the bottom of the brow. But as you see later in just a moment, it was way too much concealer. So I then took a wipe to clean off the concealer a bit. So I went in with that clean brush to try to blend out that concealer to soften it a little bit. It kind of worked, but it was still a little bit too harsh. So I'm still trying to blend out that bottom, but then I did as much as I could. And I'm going to start on the top of the brow. I believe people do this to clean up the top of the brow because it may not look as clean. But yeah, this was actually harder than I thought. It was taking a lot of effort to make this brow look clean because it was just way too much product.
Okay. Um, okay.
So to blend, I just decided to use my fingers because they were warm and it can melt the product down a little bit easier to make it move better. So that's what I'm doing here. And honestly, this is about as best as I could get it. Then for the bottom, I decided to take a brush to soften out the concealer.
Trying to see what I can do. Okay, I'm supposed to be showing you how it's done. People do it, but I just feel like I. Mm. And to be honest with you, I'm probably doing it like giving this look more justice because I've blended out quite a bit and I wasn't heavy-handed, but it's still like the concealer. I can't get it to soften. Okay. Um.
So as you see, I just gave up on that brow. So now we're going to talk about the do's. And I'm going to take a matte highlighter stick and I'm going to take a flat brush. And I'm actually going to brush the highlighter on with the brush to make it a little bit more defined. And instead of carving at the brow like we did with the concealer, all I'm doing is just going on and defining underneath the brow very lightly with the highlighter to give a nice soft definition. Okay, so now I'm going to use a powder, but instead of using an ebony powder like we did on the other brow, I'm going to use a soft brown powder. I'm going to brush the brow hairs down, and here I'm going to show you exactly where I'm going to concentrate that powder, right in those little light spaces. Now notice I don't start all the way in the front on the top of the brow. I start about a quarter of the way through, and just going and defining the top of the brow to give me better definition and a little bit of a lift. So as you see, I'm just blending that powder into the brow, making sure that it's nice and even. Then I'm taking a little bit of the powder on the brush and I am slowly creating light strokes right underneath the brow, right above that highlighter to give me some more definition on the bottom of the brow, and lightly filling in the front bottom portion of the brow by drawing a line on the bottom and then laying my brush flat and flicking up the remainder of the powder, then using my spoolie to blend that in. Okay, so we're going to whip out some dip brow pomade for this brow too, but instead of using an ebony, I'm using a dark brown. And instead of going straight from the pot, I'm going from the pot to the cap, from the cap to the brow. This makes sure that I don't use too much product. And I'm going to basically repeat those same steps that I used with the powder, going right on top, just ever so lightly to give a little bit more definition and also a little bit of staying power because as pomades, they have a little bit longer wear. And then flicking up the pomade ever so lightly through the body of the brow just to give it a little bit more definition and depth. So again, I'm going with my spoolie to blend everything out, to soften everything. And again, just mainly keeping the product from a quarter of the way through the brow to the end and blend out the front. Keep it soft.
All right, so for both brows, I'm going to finish my eye look. I mean, I didn't really do it before this video. It's kind of just what I had on all day. So it's not fresh, but I'm going to highlight underneath or set the highlight. This again was the pencil highlighter and this was the concealer. I'm going to take this color right here. Don't ask me what color it is because I don't know. I'm just going to highlight under here. I'm going to do the same thing on both eyes. I'm not going to do anything different. So it's slightly set and I'm bringing it down onto my transition color. And do the same thing over here. Because of the concealer, my highlighter is picking up like really heavy right there. And I actually used less powder. Oh gosh. To blend out this area so it's not like highlighter and then color, I like to go in with a soft brown or a taupey brown. Again, I don't know the name of the color. Use a color that's close to your skin tone. Soften not only this but also this area, because remind you, even over here I didn't blend that out too much. That's why I want this color to be very close to my skin tone. I can't even look at that brow. So just to bring some warmth and then lightly buff out. Yeah. Okay. Doing the same thing over to the stepchild. Okay. At least that concealer is blended out a little bit. Brow gel, as always. I'm gonna brush the brows in place. So to create a natural finish, you want to be able to see the hairs in the brow. That's makes your brows look more natural. I don't know what we're setting over here. I can't even see my hair. I don't want to set it. Okay. Maybe my camera doesn't want me to set it. Oh, that helped a lot though. That did help. Like I said, I probably did this brow more justice than it deserved. I mean, what do you think looks better? Duh. Let me back up a little bit. Yeah, this, I mean, come on. Come on. And notice this brow took way more effort than this brow over here.
Well, there you have it. Those are the do's and don'ts of how to naturally glamorize your brows with Inga Bailey Brows. I will see you next time. Bye.